round of applause for this. I'm really nervous when someone says he's the best speaker. That's like someone saying he tells really good funny joke. You're like, this is going to be a funny joke, and then it's not funny. You're like, impress me now. So thanks, I appreciate it. The pressure is on. This is amazing. 96 individuals coming together for 24 to 48 hours, depending on when you showed up, to play, learn, and grow from each other is for free. Is just like it's amazing. And the people who put it together, Ed, Kat, and Lisa, let's give them a huge round of applause. And not just that, it's also the fact that we're all here. We're taking the time to learn and grow from each other. So I want us to acknowledge each other really quickly. And the way we're going to do this is you're going to turn to the person next to you and thank them for being here with your best high five, handshake, hug, kiss, whatever you need to do. Ready and share. Go for it. And like we're now best friends, you know, we're going to continue this conversation. When I was talking to Ed about this keynote, I was like, okay, what could this keynote be about? And I was really going in two different directions, but it totally depended on the group. So what I did is I came up with a quick survey to determine which direction we go with this group and this talk. But this is going to work a little bit differently. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a statement on the PowerPoint. And if that statement is true for you, just make a mental note inside your brain. That's a yes. Okay? And then once you have 3 yeses, stand up from your seat and just stay standing until we're done. Ready? Here we go. Question number 1. I feel like I'm always on the go. Mental yes. Statement number 2. There's a lot of chatter in my head. And if you're like, I don't have any chatter, that's the chatter. Statement number 3. I tend to answer questions before the person is finished asking the question. That's true for you. All right, statement number 4. My thoughts bounce around in my head like a pinball machine. We're getting there, we're getting there. Let's see, another one. My mind wanders from tasks that are uninteresting. I tend to work on multiple projects simultaneously and sometimes find it hard to finish them all. I have trouble planning my day due to too many distractions. In group activities, it's hard for me to wait my turn. My mind is so cluttered, it's hard to be focused at times, and lastly, my brain feels like a television set with all the channels going at once. For the record, for those at home streaming this live, note that 99% of the room is standing right now. And congratulations to all of you, because you just diagnosed yourself with adult ADHD. So give yourselves a round of applause. That's good work. You're like, wait a second. But let's just break this down for a moment and look at a couple of these statements here. So like statement number 1. Oh, here we go, sorry. So statement number 1, I feel like I'm always on the go. So in student affairs, there often tends to be any day is different than the next day. No 2 days look alike. You go into the office and then it's like, sometimes we don't know what's going to happen that day because it's continuously moving, because we're based on the student's schedule or the administration's schedule. Statement number 2, I have trouble planning my day due to too many distractions. How many have ever had a student come into your office and have a situation that totally changed your day? We've had that one before. And then let's try another statement. My brain feels like a television set with all the channels going at once. I don't have anything for that, so I don't know where that one's coming from. But let's focus on the first 2 and the fact that student affairs itself is a really demanding job. And a lot of you, I see it in your faces. I see it's high stress, it's long hours, oftentimes working on weekends or being on call when it's a holiday. It's low pay, sorry. And oftentimes it's totally misunderstood, both within the institution and then outside the institution. How many have ever tried to explain what you do to someone outside your school before? And they're like, what? It's like you get people married or you break them up? I don't understand. So my question to all of you is, if it's high stress, low pay, long hours, why are you in student affairs? Why do you do it?
Passion.
Rewarding.
Passion for what?
To make a difference with kids.
Okay, and who's rewarding? In what way?
Say the students, when they find the major they want to major in and they're excited about it.
That moment of discovery with the students? Interesting. Why are you in student affairs? Yeah.
I'm good at it.
Tell us more.
It's in my wheelhouse. I'm doing what I know how to do well. I'm in the career that I'm supposed to be in. So,
Huh.
that's why I'm in.
Interesting. What else?
Someone had a big impact on me at one point, and I wanted to be able to do the same.
You say a lot of things on you.
Yeah, someone had a huge impact on me when I was in college, and I wanted to be able to do the same.
Sort of on the same role as that, you get to make a difference in people's lives in a very formative time of the year for most of our institutions, your traditional college-age kids. And there are few positions, few jobs where that matters like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I unofficially majored in extracurricular activities in college, and I thought, hey, I found out you could do this full time.
I like that. Unofficially majored in co-curricular activities. I'm with you on that. I got a doctorate in it.
For me, I think it's just such a unique environment where I can't think of one day that's gone by where I didn't have that, where I did something right moment. Helping somebody work through a problem or directing them in a way that was really going to help them. And it was rewarding to me to be able to leave the office every day going, you know what, this was a great day. I was able to make a difference, and I can hold on to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can keep going with a lot of these statements, and there's some common themes that are coming up. And the long hours, the high stress, the low pay, the work on weekends and holidays and being on call, people not understanding what we do. And then you go into the office and you help one student have that moment of discovery, and you say, why am I in student affairs? You're like, that's why. And that's a really cool, special moment that not many people in this world get the opportunity to do. Faculty don't get to spend as much time throughout the year as some of you do with your students and your student clubs and organizations or the academic advisors. They don't get to sit down as much as you do with those students as you guide them through the major. So how many of you have ever heard of Simon Sinek before, or his TED Talk? He gave a TED Talk before. Has anyone heard that? Okay, and who's never heard of Simon Sinek? Okay, so the majority of the room hasn't heard or his TED Talk. He did a talk, and it was Start With Why. And he came up with this basic premise, and he ended up writing a book about it. Fantastic book, but he talked about in any industry, in any company, in any institution, in any job, there's 3 levels to the job. The first one is, what do I do? That's the tactical stuff. The next one, getting deeper, is how do I do it? And then the very core of all of it is, why do I do it? And he says that the why is the most important part of any job. And if people can understand their why, then they can make the how and the what that much better and push it out into the world. And so he put this book out, and it was amazing, and it made all these waves. And I really attached to it because I started to really think, like, what's my why? Why do I do what I do? And then I got to this place where I was like, well, there's the why part of it. I love seeing students have that moment of discovery. Like, that's just so amazing of a moment. Or seeing them go from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and they've completely transformed, and it's like magic. And you see them, even their clothes change, their hairstyle change, because they're becoming a person, and it's happening right in front of your eyes. So I've seen that, and that's really impressive. But then I have a question for you. So instead of why are you in student affairs, or why are you in student affairs, the question is, why are you in student affairs? And I want to dig a little bit deeper, because I think inside all of us there's the why, but then there's also a why behind the why. And this is the deeper question that not many of us get to or have the chance to answer. This is the deep part of us that's individual for each person that determines why we do what we do. So yes, I'm in student affairs to help students, but why am I willing to give long hours, low pay my entire life to help that student? What is it for me in my life that I'm choosing to dedicate to that cause? To show you a concrete example, this is a friend of mine, his name's Joe, and he lives in New York, and he started a company called Homefield, and he helps, it's an online website that helps student athletes post videos of their trainings for the coaches and for recruiters. And so I was sitting down with him, and I was asking him, like, Joe, why, oh, and sorry, before I tell you about that, the thing about Joe is that he runs a blog, and then he's got his Twitter account, and on any given weekend, he pretty much, he'll spend 1 or 2 weekends a month working all weekend on his project. Or he'll say, I'm sleeping at the office tonight because I got to get up early to get some stuff done for the project. And so I was sitting with him, I'm like, Joe, why do you do this? Like, why are you building this? Because clearly you're spending way more time, way more energy, and I know you're not getting paid every month to be able to build this. So why do you do it? And so he paused and he looked at me and he's like, well, when I was a student athlete, I had a hard time pushing out my videos to recruiters, and so I want to help more athletes to do that. I was like, no. I get that. That's the why of Homefield. That's why Homefield exists. But why do you choose to spend so many hours and so much stress to build something you're not getting paid much for? And he paused. And we were sitting there, and he took this deep breath, and his eyes started to fill up with tears. And then he said when he was younger, he was in a car with his mom and his cousin, and got into a horrible accident, and his mom died, and his cousin died, and then his mom was pregnant with his unborn brother or sister, and that baby died as well. And he said he was the only one from that car trip that survived, and a car accident that survived. And in the reports that came afterwards, the report said that his mom was actually the one that shielded him from dying as well. That's a why behind the why. And he said, I'm never going to let a day go by where I don't forget that. I forget the fact that she died for me to continue to live for the rest of my life. So when I choose to take on something, I'm going to give it everything I possibly can. That's his why behind his why. He also runs a New York Tech blood drive where he rallies people in New York to come together every quarter and give blood to people who were in car accidents, knowing that there's a huge demand for blood in this society, and there's only, I think it's 10 or 20% of the willing and able people who give blood actually give blood. So not only is his why behind why driving Homefield, it's also driving everything else in his life. That's the why behind the why. And so I ask again, why are you in student affairs? My family grew up on a farm in Lawrence, Michigan, right here, for my Michiganites out there. And we had more stray cats in our town than we had human beings. And so, small town, one stoplight, no grocery stores. And the one there were a lot of magical things about growing up on a farm, but one of the things that was really cool for me was our school had this policy that if you were interested and willing and able to read ahead in the textbooks and do the work ahead in the textbooks, they would let you continue on. And if you finished that year's class, then you could go to the next year's textbook, and then you go to the next year's textbook, and keep going as long as you wanted. And I took this on as a challenge. And so I said, this is the best thing ever. So I would go home on weekends and on Sunday, and everyone else would go out, and I would sit there and I'd be reading the science book, the math book, and I would get so into education. Like, I loved it. It was so amazing. So by the end of my second grade, I know, huge stuff, second grade, I was reading all the sixth grade textbooks. And I had passed all the classes to get up to sixth grade textbooks. And this was I loved learning. And I was so excited to continue doing that. And then my family moved from our farm to Chicago, to the suburbs of Chicago. And we went to my first day of school. My parents came in with me, and we went to the principal's office. And we sat down, and my parents asked the principal to put me in the advanced classes because I had gone through all these cool courses, so why should I retake it? And we had the fresh off the farm look about us. Like, there were still overalls, I had a rat tail going, glasses were crooked. It was trouble, okay? Like, it was just trouble. We had well water on our farm. For those of you who lived on a farm, you know this, all right? And so we had that fresh off the farm look, and the principal asked me 3 questions, and I stumbled through the questions because I was nervous about being a new student. I was in a new environment. I had never been around this many people in my life before. And so he's there with my parents, and he's thinking through it, and he pauses for a moment, and he looks back at us, and he says, you know, you just don't look like you'd fit well with the advanced students, so you can go stay with the regular students. And I believed that from 3rd grade all the way up until I graduated from high school. I believed I was just an average student, and so I got solid C grades all the way through school, and I didn't get into any of the schools that I wanted to. All my friends went away to school, and because I didn't get into any schools I wanted to, I had to go to the local community college, which was closer to my home than my high school was. So I actually commuted less to college than I did to high school. And our college was called College of DuPage. Some of you may know it. It's in the DuPage County in outside Chicago. It's also known as the College of Dropouts, the College of Dreams. It also has UCLA, which is University closest to Lambert Avenue, which is the street it's on. So it had its nicknames in the community. And I went there, and everyone else went away. And I stumbled randomly into the student activities office. And my advisor, his name's Chuck Steele at the time, he was looking at me and he's like, yeah, I want to get you a job here. And he's like, you look lost. And he started to help me and guide me through. And then he got me a job at working at a student box office. And he's like, you know, have you ever tried to be a part of a club before? And I was like, no, I don't know. It's not my thing. And he's like, no, really, you should do it. Like, you might actually be interested in this. So I joined the Student Activities Program Board for the first time. And I started to host these events, book acts, call agents, and haggle prices with the agents on the phone. And he was giving me this permission to work with a $50,000 budget. I had never had someone in education before give me that kind of responsibility. And that set a light bulb off in my head, like a spark, a fire. I all of a sudden changed in that first year of college, and completely changed. Back to when I was in 2nd grade, my life, I started to have that feeling like, I'm really enjoying this again. Like, education is exciting. And I realized that, like, I love it. I genuinely love it. So then, of course, like every motivated student leader, I joined 30 other clubs. And I was like, this is great. And then I realized I spent my entire life at school. On the weekends, I was there helping out and everything. So I didn't care that I was working long hours or anything, because I genuinely enjoyed every moment of it. And then my first year of college, I got my first all A's. And it was huge for me. And I had heard people always tell me, if you just tried, you would succeed, you know? Or my parents mostly, and then not in education. If you just tried, you succeed. And then I got to the spot in college where the light bulb turned back on, and I went back to who I was when I was younger, and I got those A's. Fast forward 4 years later, I went to my 2-year graduated from my 4-year, outstanding graduate at both schools, got to give the commencement speech at both schools. I was an all-USA academic first team. And I credit 100% of that to the fact that Chuck Steele saw me and saw potential in me and asked me to join a club and be a part of the co-curricular activities out there. Out of everyone at that school, the one person anytime I go home, the one person I still have lunch with is him. He saw that moment in me. And so now when I get to travel around and talk to student leaders across the country, and I see these students sitting in the audience, I can tell which ones have been sparked. Their eyes are a little bit bigger, their shoulders are a little bit back, they feel more confident, and then I can see the ones that are a little more slouched down. They're almost there. They're waiting for someone to give them that extra special moment to turn the light bulb on. And that's where Student Affairs comes in. And that's what happened to me. And I want to make sure I give that moment to as many students across the country as possible. That's my why behind my why. So again, I ask, why are you in Student Affairs? What we're going to do is take 2.5 minutes to turn to the person next to you and see if you can answer this question. Ready? Begin.
All right. Chris.
I'm not. Oh, okay. What do you do?
or told a story that you felt inspired by? How many of you have, no, let me actually, is there anyone who heard one of those stories who is willing to share with the group? Their why behind their why. Yeah?
I guess for me, when I was in college, I saw it as an opportunity to get a new start and to kind of almost reclaim your identity. When you go through high school, sometimes you can be lumped into a different category, whether you play sports or whatever, where you sit in the lunchroom. I saw college as a brand new start, and for me, I want students to know that they have that opportunity to start over again. So that's my why behind that.
Mike?
Max.
How many times do you see students and when they walk on your campus, they're like, you see that they're looking for that new identity? They had it in high school.
All the time.
Anyone else? One more story?
I was actually a high school dropout, and I hated,
Just so they can hear you.
oh, I'm a high school dropout. I hated the school passionately, and I quit and went to go work. And then after a few years, I kind of got some leadership that told me to go back to school. And then I really loved it. I ended up in an elite private school, maybe similar to your story. And being away taught me a lot about myself and what I wanted to get out of school. And I think now by working in a college, I have that opportunity to kind of provide the lessons that I learned to make sure that others don't fall into the same traps with education that I did. And then also I can tell them to really, follow their passions and why they're there. Because I went to school because I was passionate about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for sharing. How many of you, when you were there and trying to tell the story, you felt like it's not there yet? Like you're still searching for your why, just not your head. You feel like that's it? So it took me a long time to figure out my why and what really drove me. And it's totally a personal journey and it's totally a personal discovery. But if you keep it at the forefront, just keep kind of thinking about it every so often, it's going to happen. And then that starts to drive the what and the how and the why, the what, and the how, and it's going to make you want to wake up early, go to bed late, work weekends, and help as many students as possible. So keep challenging yourself to come up with that why behind the why. And it was interesting, as I was preparing for this, I had I knew my story, I knew Joe's story, I knew there were going to be stories in here, but I wanted to take the why behind the why, and that's sort of our foundation, but what do we do with that? What's the result of that? So I said, I would love to hear some of the other side of that story. Because I'm so inspired to do what I do, what's the result on the students? So I posted on Twitter, I said, hey, SATech, I'm looking for blogs, posts, tweets you've written or read about a student thanking you for the work you do in Student Affairs. And there was sort of silence at first. And then an email came in. It was like, hey, Tom, I took a picture of this one. It was in my drawer. And then another email came in and says, Tom, I keep this by my bedside. And every time I don't want to go into work, this is what I read. And then another email came in, and another email, and another email, and another email. I was like, whoa. I just unlocked some massive force within Student Affairs. And my inbox was overflowing with these stories. So I'm sitting there at my desk reading through these, trying to parse through these stories, and I'm bawling. It's like, these are so amazing. And everyone around me is looking like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you don't even understand. They were adults on campus. I was just so inspired by these stories and so moved, and I was using every tissue we had in the office. And there were so many, I can't share them all, but I want to share a few with you so that you see the other side of the why behind the why, the result of what happens. I took out most of the personal information, so you're not going to know who it's from or anything. I know for HIPAA, but no, totally understand. So this one, I don't think you'll ever realize how much of an impact you had on my life, not just at my UID career, but my life. I've never had a positive male role model that I knew I could trust and rely on. You showed me that there are people out there that I can trust, you being one of them. You will never know how much it means to me knowing that there is someone I can count on. I've never felt so confident and, more importantly, safe. So thank you for everything, big and small. That's really cool, but it keeps going. I owe you a special thanks for taking some time to talk to me about life. Being an Asian male who is in the field, proudly out, and most importantly happy is who I aspire to be. Looking up to you and talking with you this past week has made me realize that that is not impossible. If I can impact students' lives the same way you have mine, I'll be a satisfied man, and I know that this is the one field where I can do that. That is so cool, and it keeps going. You left a permanent mark in my life. You never gave up on me. You've always held me accountable, kept me grounded, lifted me up when I needed it. You were supportive, and you were a friend. You taught us to work as a team, appreciate everyone's individual skills and ideas, not to judge each other, and to be proud of ourselves, our organization, and our school. You left that mark in my life that I really needed, and I thank you for that. And then there were some fun ones that came in, where, to set up for this next slide, there was a student, it was a brother who was in Afghanistan, and he knew his sister went to the school, and she was at the library studying by herself and having a hard time in school. So the guy in Afghanistan posted a tweet to say, hey, can someone at this school, well, let me show you. Can someone at, my sister's in the library on the 3rd floor next to a window. Will someone give her a hug for me and tell her I love her? And so, of course, the digital manager at the school picks up on the tweet and then retweets it so that people can see. And then the person in Afghanistan comes back again, says her name is Tanisha. I'd be eternally grateful. And then the school comes back, oh, well, let's make it happen. And then it goes on, you make me wish I went to your school. And then it happens that someone goes to the library, calls out her name, and she's like, what? And she raises her hand, and it goes over and gives her a hug and said it's from her brother in Afghanistan. So it's not just the people who are working with the clubs and organizations, the digital managers are changing the culture of the campus as well. Because they're seeing stuff like this happen and they're making it happen. That's so cool. Another one. You make me laugh. You were there to listen and give friendly guidance and support. And most important, I've never felt that I am on my own, because I always knew that I could count on you. I wanted to send you this message because at many points over the past 2 years, you were a colleague, a fellow student, a mentor, and a friend, and you played a significant role in my life, and I want to thank you for that. I realized that you must have seen something in me. I'm going to reread that. I realized that you must have seen something in me, and without your push, I would have never become the student leader I am now. I owe you more than I can possibly explain. Nod your head if you've ever felt you needed to push a student because you saw something they didn't see yet. Another one, my professional, personal, and academic growth over the past 4 months would not have been possible if it wasn't for you. And then one last one. I'm going to miss you when I'm gone. You are one of the few people I really am going to have a hard time saying goodbye to. Ever since last summer, you've gone out of your way to make my day and to check in with me and make sure I'm doing all right. In fact, you have always been the only professional staff member who has ever and consistently and sincerely took any time to ask how I'm doing on a personal level. You're the only one who's ever really tried to get to know me. You've helped me more than you'll ever know. What you've done for me and so for many others on this campus is incredible. I look up to you so much, and I hope that someday I hope to make half as much a difference in the lives of others as you have in the past year for me. Man. And I'm telling you, they just kept coming and coming and coming. And these emails just kept flowing and flowing and flowing. And there's the rah-rah, kumbaya side of this, but then, which is, we all get that side of it, but then there's heavy academic research that shows that the work in student affairs is deeply involved in the academic and life success of an individual student. And just to share 3 specific data points, not that you guys don't know this already, but just to reiterate it, that it's not just about kumbaya, but it's also about real research that shows that this work matters. UCLA study said that 80% of all graduating students say the most impactful learning moments for them happen outside the classroom. Just like you were saying in the back, you majored in co-curricular activities. That's where I discovered who I was. Vincent Tinto, woo! Social integration with the institution is a key factor in academic success. A summarization of his work, some of his work. And then there is the Collegiate Employment Research Institute, asked what are the top 4 skills of desired employers by graduate graduating seniors. And the top 4 desired skills that were desired were ability to plan and manage projects. I wonder where that happens. Ability to build and lead teams. I wonder where that happens. Ability to analyze, evaluate, and interpret data. We're working on it. Ability to engage in continuous learning. If a student spends 50% of their time outside the classroom, and we're talking about continuous learning, who runs the co-curricular, who runs the informal learning spaces on our campus, whether it's online or offline? Student Affairs. So it's not just kumbaya, it's heavy research that says that. So one thing I hope that you take away is this idea that you change lives because the work you do truly does matter to the student's success. Not just in their life, not just in the academic, but in their life as a whole after they graduate. But this got me thinking, because I posted that tweet asking for thank you letters back. And right away, I got a response from someone who said this, Jeff, who's at the Ohio State University. He said, I wonder how many you'll get. Not many student affairs I know trumpet these sort of things, but they should. And it was so true because every email that came in, they all talked about their little drawer or their little box or their wall that they had. And some of you are nodding your head because you're like, yeah, I got it, it's right there. And then that reminded me of a tweet that Eric put out a long time ago that said, writing inside higher ed for the past 2 years has been an educational experience. One thing I've learned is that Student Affairs needs a PR rep. Here's the truth. If we don't tell the world what the value of our job is, someone, politician, administration, family, outside sources, whoever it is going to come in and tell us what we do and how we should do it, and we're not going to like any of it because they don't understand what it's like. And honestly, I'm never fully going to understand what it's like for you to spend 100 hours with a student throughout the year, and that's for you to tell the world what it's like and the value that that produces. And yes, the drawers are great, and yes, the walls are great, and yes, the postcard on the bedside is great, but the world needs to know not just the academic side of it, but also the value that it does to the students. They need to hear these stories. We need to be our biggest champions. Because if we're not our biggest champions, someone's going to come in and do it for us, and we're not going to like what they do. So I want to close with one final story. And this one, out of all the stories, I felt like I was bawling. I was going through in my office and reading this. I read it several times, and I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't want to try and paraphrase it or anything. It's called Starfish. So it comes from this advisor. I've known this advisor for a while, so maybe he felt more comfortable sharing this story. And he took some time to write it as well. This guy's been in the field for at least 15, maybe even 20 years. So here it goes. In 1995, a young woman came into my office looking for help. She went to our school as a freshman and made some serious freshman mistakes, causing her to drop out. And so then she asked at my office if we had any services that would help her with childcare and other issues. We did. We did not, but I asked her, would you be interested in helping me to set that up for our school and maybe work for me so that we can have this for other students, because you're not alone in having to deal with this. So together we created this program to help single mothers or single fathers to go to school and have childcare access. When she graduated, she was the graduate of the year at our school several years later, and then she went on to her 4-year institution and started her own businesses, which is what she does now. We remained friends, and I participated in her wedding. And then she stood beside me at my wedding in 1999. In 2005, I was at this annual alumni awards ceremony, and I was surprised to see her there. So we sat together and we caught up, and I was asking what was going on. And in the middle of the program, they asked her to come up on stage to tell her story, so she did. And she told about her life of how hard it was to go to school and have a child. She talked about going to school and having illnesses and having teachers maybe not understand what it's like to have an illness, but knowing that there were people in other offices that truly did understand what it was like, and how she had to make a living and go to school at the same time. And then she pulled out this piece of paper and started to tell this story called the Starfish story. It goes like this. A young girl was walking along a beach upon which thousands of starfish had been washed up during a terrible storm. And when she came to each starfish, she reached down, picked it up, and then threw it back into the ocean. And people all around her were watching her as she was trying to pick up 1,000 starfish that were clearly all across the beach, and she was going to spend their entire day doing. She'd been doing this for some time, and then this man walked up to her and asked her, "Little girl, why are you doing this? Look at this beach. You can't possibly throw back every single starfish that's here. You can't begin to make a difference." And the little girl seemed crushed and suddenly deflated. But after a few moments of walking down the beach, she bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it as far as she could back into the ocean. And then she looked up at the man and replied, "Well, I made a difference with that one." And then she looked up from her piece of paper, and she looked out at me in the audience as the advisor. And she said, "Thank you for throwing me back in." We change lives. We genuinely change lives. Whether you're working in the online, digital world, whether you're working with student leaders, you're an academic advisor, you change lives because the work you do is critical to student success. And so as you leave here, I hope that you not just take the ideas that were created, but that you discover what your why behind your why is, and that you continue to change lives to help people like me and help you when you're back in school. I thank Ed for bringing me here and letting me be a part of this. I'm excited to continue the conversation with you guys afterwards. So, thank you. Really appreciate that.
I told you. Thank you, Tom. Really, thank you. This is it. We are adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Please give another round of applause to Boston University. Kat, your words to express our gratitude for the opportunity to be here and all your hard work. Thank you. Thanks to Mike Hamilton and our friends from HigherEdLive who are here to help share the experience with those of you out in the digital space. So please thank them for me, please. I'm proud to announce that Mike will be joining me on the Student Affairs Live broadcast, helping me continue the great tradition that Eric Stoller started a year and a half ago now. So really excited for that. So again, I want to recognize Eric and thank you for that. So thank you, Eric. We'll have evaluations that will go out next week thanks to Lisa Endersby from our friend from Canada who's here who visited. So please be on the lookout and email for that. And please give us your honest feedback about this program, its future, and what you'd like to see should we do it again next year. And I hate saying yes every year we're going to do this. It will always depend. But if we can do it again, you know we're going to. I appreciate everyone making the time to be here. And like I said, let's stay connected. The website and other things that will be coming up from the things you built here, we're going to continue. So thank you again very much. It's been a pleasure being with you. Thanks.